Adolf Hitler's early life was marked by turmoil and instability, a prelude to the tumultuous path he would later tread. Born in Braunau am Inn, Austria, on April 20th, 1889, he was the fourth of 6 children. His early years were spent in a small town that straddled the border between Austria and Germany, a symbolic location that would later resonate with his pan-Germanic ambitions. His father, Alois, was a strict and authoritarian customs official, a man who demanded obedience and respect. Alois's rigid demeanor and high expectations created a household atmosphere that was often tense and oppressive. Alois had high expectations for Adolf, pushing him towards a career in civil service. He envisioned his son following in his footsteps, a path that Adolf found stifling and uninspiring. However, young Adolf clashed with his father's aspirations. He was a rebellious child, often at odds with the strict discipline imposed by Alois. This conflict would shape much of his early life, fostering a deep-seated resentment towards authority. He possessed a stubborn streak and harbored artistic ambitions. From a young age, Adolf showed a keen interest in drawing and painting, dreaming of becoming a great artist. His artistic pursuits were a form of escape from the rigid expectations of his father. His relationship with his mother, Clara, was much closer. Clara was a nurturing and loving presence in his life, providing the emotional support that was lacking from his father. She offered him solace and affection in a household often dominated by his father's stern presence. Clara's gentle nature and unwavering support were a stark contrast to Alois's authoritarianism, creating a deep bond between mother and son. Hitler's academic performance was unremarkable. He struggled in school, showing little interest in most subjects. His grades were mediocre, and he often clashed with teachers, further straining his relationship with his father. He showed little interest in most subjects, excelling only in drawing and history. These were the only areas where he demonstrated any real talent or enthusiasm, further fueling his desire to pursue a career in the arts. His teenage years were marked by the loss of his younger brother, Edmund, an event that deeply affected him. The death of Edmund in 1900 was a devastating blow, plunging Adolf into a period of profound grief and isolation. This tragedy further strained his relationship with Alois. The loss of his brother created a rift between father and son that would never fully heal, deepening Adolf's sense of alienation and resentment. After his father's death in 1903, Hitler left school without graduating. With Alois no longer imposing his will, Adolf felt a sense of liberation, but also a lack of direction. He drifted through his late teens and early 20s, harboring grand ambitions but lacking direction. He moved from place to place, struggling to find his footing in a world that seemed increasingly hostile and indifferent. He envisioned himself as an artist, even moving to Vienna in 1907 to pursue this dream. Vienna, with its vibrant cultural scene, seemed like the perfect place for an aspiring artist to make his mark. Vienna proved to be a harsh reality check for the aspiring artist. The city's art world was competitive and unforgiving, and Adolf quickly found himself out of his depth. His application to the Academy of Fine Arts was rejected twice. These rejections were a crushing blow, shattering his dreams of becoming a professional artist and leaving him adrift in a city that seemed increasingly alien and hostile. He found himself adrift in a city grappling with social and economic upheaval. Vienna was a city of stark contrast, with opulent wealth existing alongside grinding poverty, a reality that Adolf experienced firsthand. Faced with poverty and rejection, Hitler found solace in the city's libraries. He spent countless hours reading, immersing himself in books on history, politics, and philosophy. He devoured political pamphlets and newspapers, immersing himself in the ideologies of nationalism, anti-Semitism, and pan-Germanism. These ideas resonated with his own growing sense of resentment and disillusionment, providing a framework for his burgeoning extremist beliefs. These ideas resonated with his own growing sense of resentment and disillusionment. The political climate of Vienna, with its fervent nationalism and widespread anti-Semitism, provided fertile ground for the development of his radical views. The years in Vienna proved to be formative for Hitler. The city's vibrant, yet volatile atmosphere shaped his worldview, hardening his beliefs and deepening his sense of purpose. They hardened his worldview, shaping him into a bitter and angry young man. The rejection and hardship he faced in Vienna fueled his growing sense of grievance and victimhood. The seeds of his extremist beliefs were sown during this period of hardship and isolation. The ideas he encountered in Vienna would later form the foundation of his radical ideology. Vienna's atmosphere of social Darwinism and racial prejudice fueled his existing prejudices. The city's intellectual and political climate provided a fertile ground for the development of his extremist views. It was here that Hitler's transformation from a frustrated artist into a radical ideologue began to take shape. The experiences and ideas he encountered in Vienna would profoundly influence his future path, setting the stage for the dark and tumultuous journey that lay ahead. In 1913, Hitler left Vienna for Munich, Germany. This move was not just a change of scenery, but a deliberate attempt to escape his past and the authorities who were after him. He was escaping the authorities who sought to conscript him into the Austro-Hungarian army. Hitler had no desire to serve an empire he felt no loyalty towards, and Munich offered a fresh start. This move proved pivotal, placing him at the heart of a nation on the brink of war. Munich was a city of vibrant political activity and cultural change, a place where Hitler could immerse himself in new ideas and ideologies. When World War I erupted in 1914, Hitler volunteered for the German army. He saw the war as an opportunity for redemption, a chance to prove his worth and channel his frustrations into a cause larger than himself. He saw the war as an opportunity for redemption, a chance to prove his worth and channel his frustrations into a cause larger than himself. The war offered a sense of purpose and belonging that he had been searching for. He served with distinction on the Western Front, earning the Iron Cross for bravery. This recognition was a significant boost to his self-esteem and solidified his belief in his own destiny. He embraced the camaraderie and purpose he found in the trenches. The shared hardships and the bonds formed with his fellow soldiers gave him a sense of belonging he had never experienced before. He excelled as a dispatch runner, a dangerous role that exposed him to the horrors of modern warfare. The constant threat of death and the brutal realities of the battlefield only seemed to strengthen his resolve, yet he seemed to thrive in the chaos and brutality. The war became a crucible that forged his identity and solidified his beliefs. The war became a defining experience, solidifying his belief in German nationalism and his disdain for those he deemed Germany's enemies. He became increasingly convinced that Germany's future depended on a strong, unified national identity. The defeat of Germany in 1918 was a crushing blow to Hitler. The sense of betrayal and loss was profound, and it left him searching for answers and someone to blame. He was hospitalized for temporary blindness caused by a mustard gas attack when he learned of the armistice. This personal suffering only deepened his sense of betrayal and fueled his anger. He viewed the armistice as a betrayal by the German government and the civilian population. The idea that Germany had been betrayed from within became a central theme in his worldview. He shared the widespread sentiment that Germany had been stabbed in the back by pacifists and revolutionaries. This belief became a cornerstone of his political ideology and would later be used to rally support for his cause. His bitterness and anger intensified, further fueling his extremist beliefs. The post-war period was marked by political unrest and economic hardship, conditions that Hitler would exploit to gain power and influence. In the years following the war, Hitler began to find his place in the tumultuous political landscape of Germany. He joined the German Workers' Party, which would later become the Nazi Party, and quickly rose to prominence with his fiery speeches and radical ideas. His ability to tap into the anger and disillusionment of the German people allowed him to build a loyal following. The seeds of his future dictatorship were sown in these early years of political activism. After the war, Hitler returned to Munich, a city teeming with political unrest. The streets were filled with disillusioned soldiers, political factions clashing, and a populace grappling with the harsh realities of defeat and economic hardship. He joined the German Workers' Party, a small and insignificant group that shared his nationalist and anti-Semitic views. This party, though minor at the time, provided a fertile ground for Hitler's burgeoning political ambitions. He quickly rose through the ranks, becoming the party's chief of propaganda in 1920. His ability to articulate the frustrations and desires of the people made him an invaluable asset to the party. He possessed a natural talent for oratory, captivating audiences with his fiery rhetoric and charismatic presence. His speeches were not just words, they were a call to action, a promise of a restored Germany. He renamed the party the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or Nazi Party, and adopted the swastika as its symbol. This rebranding was a strategic move to broaden the party's appeal and create a distinct identity. Hitler's speeches exploited the economic hardships and political instability that plagued post-war Germany. He tapped into the collective anger and despair, offering a vision of hope and renewal. He offered scapegoats for the nation's woes, blaming Jews, communists, and the Treaty of Versailles for Germany's humiliation. This rhetoric of blame and division resonated deeply with a population looking for someone to hold accountable. His message resonated with a growing segment of the population, desperate for change and a return to national pride. The Nazi Party's rallies grew larger, and their influence began to spread beyond Munich. In 1923, Hitler and the Nazi Party attempted to seize power in Munich in what became known as the Beer Hall Putsch. This bold move was a direct challenge to the Weimar Republic and a test of the Nazi Party's strength. The coup failed, and Hitler was arrested and sentenced to prison for treason. This could have been the end of his political career, but instead it became a turning point. However, the trial gave him a national platform to further disseminate his message. His impassioned speeches during the trial turned him into a martyr for the nationalist cause. His time in prison allowed him to write Mein Kampf, My Struggle, a rambling and hate-filled autobiography that laid out his political ideology. This book would become the blueprint for the Nazi Party's future actions and policies, solidifying Hitler's vision for Germany's future. Mein Kampf was not just a book, it was a manifesto that outlined his plans for Germany's resurgence and the elimination of those he deemed undesirable. It became a cornerstone of Nazi propaganda, spreading his toxic ideology far and wide. Upon his release, Hitler found that his time in prison had only increased his popularity. The Nazi Party, now more organized and determined, continued to grow, setting the stage for their eventual rise to power. Released from prison in 1924, Hitler shifted his strategy significantly. He recognized the need for political legitimacy and sought to achieve power through legal means. The Nazi Party, once a fringe group, began to gain significant traction in German politics. Exploiting the economic turmoil of the Great Depression, the Nazis presented themselves as the only ones capable of restoring order and prosperity to Germany. Hitler's relentless campaigning and the Nazi Party's effective propaganda machine won them increasing support. In the 1932 elections, the Nazis became the largest party in the Reichstag, the German parliament. President Paul von Hindenburg appointed Hitler Chancellor in January 1933. This appointment proved to be a fatal miscalculation. It opened the door for Hitler to dismantle the fragile Weimar Republic from within. Within months of his appointment, Hitler moved swiftly to consolidate his power. He used the burning of the Reichstag, a suspected arson attack blamed on the communists, to justify the suspension of civil liberties and the arrest of political opponents. The Enabling Act, passed by the Reichstag in March 1933, effectively granted Hitler dictatorial powers. He systematically eliminated all opposition, banning other political parties, trade unions, and independent media outlets.